It's always so eerily quiet.
Yeah.
I really feel like we need to start having music at the very beginning.
That's a great idea. Yeah, I think that'd be good. I used to do that before I started my class because it's like the same thing. Like before you start class, like it's like kind of weird
Yeah,
feeling.
everyone's just walking in very quiet
Yeah,
unless you have
yeah,
like little side conversations going on.
yeah, yeah.
I also feel like it kind of gets you pumped up for the session.
It does. It does. No, music would be a nice addition.
Yes. Okay, I'm gonna put that on my to-do list for the next webinar. All right. It looks like people will continue to be joining. So we'll go ahead and get started just so we have the full hour and have plenty of time for Q&A. So thank you all so much for joining us today. We really appreciate y'all taking time out of your day. I know it is the midst of fall semester and things are really crazy right now, so we just appreciate you taking the time. Today we are going to dive into the Edmonds series. And just for a few introductions before we get started, my name is Claire McLemore and I'm one of the marketing managers on our accounting list. We also have Steve Schutz on the phone, who is our portfolio manager on our accounting list. And so both of us will be kind of working behind the scenes, monitoring the chat and the Q&A and the poll questions. And then we have our wonderful author team on with us today. We have Chris Edmonds and Jennifer Edmonds. I'm going to let them introduce themselves further. But before I do that, just a few housekeeping things. Everyone has been turned on mute just to limit some of the background noise, which is why it was so eerily quiet when you were jumping on. So if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to use the chat or the Q&A. If you do choose to use the chat, it will say, it says send to, and then there's a drop down. If you can choose either everyone or all panelists, that means that your question will not only go to me, but it will go to our author team as well as Steve. And so that will just help us monitor the chat better. You can also use the Q&A and everyone will be able to see your question from there. We'll also be doing a few poll questions throughout. When I open it up, it should just pop up on your screen and we would love your participation in those questions. And we will also be recording this session. So you will receive a follow-up email with the recording and the slides. So if there's something that they go over today that you want to go back and revisit, you're more than welcome to do that. So with that, I think that is it. I'm going to turn it over to Chris and Jennifer.
All right. Thanks, Claire. All right. Well, welcome everyone. Thanks for coming. So we really appreciate like the opportunity to kind of share what we're doing with our series. And so we're gonna jump right in. I'll introduce our author team real quick. I'm on the call and Jen's on the call. And if you guys have questions, as Claire said, please jump in on the chat. We really want to, use this time to make sure that all your questions are answered. So jump in anytime. But we have a unique author team, I would say. We got we're a big family. So my father started this series back in the early 90s with Phil Olds, and then myself and Jen are on the call right now, and then my brother Mark's also part of the team. So we have a really close knit author team, which I think offers a lot of advantages. One, our author team is fully focused on introductory accounting. We all have spent our entire careers teaching intro accounting, whether it's financial or managerial, and we teach it to introductory students, but also to non-majors and to MBAs as well. So we have a ton of experience. We've all really focused on that area. I think if you add up the teaching experience of all the authors on the text, it's over 100 years of teaching intro accounting. So lots of experience in teaching intro. I think another thing that kind of makes us unique is that we build all of our own material. So we write the text, but we also write all the end of chapter problems. We make the videos. We write our own test bank. So there's a lot of consistency to our content. It's very consistent across all the different books. So that's us, a kind of unique author team. And then we got, if we look at our text, we have 4 texts that we offer, that we focus on. 2 of them are financial texts. So we have 2 financial accounting texts. And these are, the first one over here is kind of a traditional approach. So this is what you'd think of as a traditional financial accounting text, has debits and credits throughout, very similar to what you've probably seen anywhere. I'd say the thing that makes this text unique, and I'll talk more about it, is we really focus on decision making and how events affect financial statements. So there's a real emphasis on not only, what's the journal entry, but what actually was the financial statement impact and what's the business impact. So I think that's what makes that text unique. And then we also have another text. It's this more of a modern approach, and it delays debits and credits until the end of the class. And this is what we're actually using at UAB. We've had great success with it. It just breaks it down a little further. It's like turning one dial at a time. So you teach the students the basic impact on the financial statements and how it affects the accounting equation, and then we add the debit and credit terminology later on. But these texts cover the same amount of material. It's just a slightly different approach with this one. That's our financial series. Then we have a managerial text, and I'd say our managerial text is very decision-making oriented as well. It focuses on service companies, merchandising companies. We still cover manufacturing, but it's done at the end of the text. So it's a much more approachable text to managerial accounting. And then we have our survey text, which basically combines financial and managerial. It's really for non-majors, but a lot of schools use it for MBA as well. So those are our series. So before I kind of dive into exactly our approach and what resources we have, we kind of want to run some polls to kind of get a sense of what everyone's looking for. So let me run some polls. So can we run these polls real quick, Claire? So if you would just jump in and answer these polls, this will help us kind of make sure that we're covering what everyone wants to see. You can choose more than one here.
Yep, it looks like the answers are coming in now. I'll give it a few seconds and then I'll close it and open it up to you, Chris.
Okay, cool.
All right. Looks like we just have about, okay, people are still answering it. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close it.
Okay.
I'm going to share the poll results and you should be able to see them now.
Okay, cool. So yeah, so we have actually more online than face to face. I'm sure that's a function of COVID, the pandemic, but yeah, it's kind of interesting. And actually a lot of hybrids. That's interesting too. So I'll talk to that as well. That's really interesting. And face to face. Okay, so that helps us kind of decide what we want to cover. So I'm sure we need to cover a lot of online hybrid stuff as well as face to face. Let's do the next poll real quick, Claire. Kind of just get a sense.
And Chris, you want to put that second poll on the screen so they can?
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah.
Awesome. It may take people a little bit longer to answer this one with all the different options.
Longer.
I'll give it a few seconds. Again, we need the music.
Yeah, we definitely need music. That would be a good addition.
Take a note.
I'm thinking that trivia sound effect, dude.
Yeah.
All right, there's just a few people that haven't answered now.
Okay.
I'll go ahead and close it. And it might give me a 30-second countdown. So if nothing happens for 30 seconds, that's why. If people are still answering it.
Okay.
Oh, it actually didn't. So we're good. All right, you should see the poll results now.
Yeah, I'm trying to blow them up. Let's see. I can't read my own thing. It's like, well, I can read right here. Okay, so all right, that's super interesting. So the first one, engaging students, obviously that looks like the number one impact. How do you engage students in introductory accounting? I think that's super interesting. It's something that we work with, that we're focused on all the time, is how do we actually engage these students? So I'll talk a lot about that. And there's, I think, engaging online, engaging face to face. Those are two different things. So we kind of have approaches for both. So I'll make sure I hit that. Retention, not as many people focused on retention. It's kind of interesting. A lot of schools are. Let's see what else is important. So students memorize instead of understand the subject. Students are uninterested in the subject. Yeah, these are real common things for accounting. And then the information needs of accounting versus non-majors. So that's also an issue. And no one has any issues with teaching online. So that's kind of interesting. Okay, so that'll talk about what we'll focus on. We'll focus on engagement, and we'll focus on, how do you get students not to memorize, and how do you get them interested in the subject. That'll be our focus for this thing. And then the last one, or we'll wait and run some. Well, we can run one more poll. Let's run one more poll, Claire, and then I can
Yep, I just
help
opened.
me kind of guide this whole discussion.
Is the poll
It's
showing?
up.
Okay.
Yeah, I see the poll.
Okay, awesome. So
Yeah.
responses are coming in
I
now.
promise this is the last poll. So yeah, so we can get started. It just, last one you got to answer.
Well, it's always good to be able to tailor to kind of what things are important to them. So this is great.
For sure.
Steve, we need you in the background doing your do do do. Right. A few people still answering. All right, I'll go ahead and close it. All right, and this time it gave me the countdown, so we're gonna have to wait.
Okay, well I can get started. Just tell me when it's ready. We'll come back to this whenever it's ready. Whenever it's ready, Claire, just jump back in. We just want to make sure we covered the right things people want to see. Okay, so let's, I guess, kind of shifting gears, and I think this kind of the poll results. Let me get. Oh, here's our poll real quick. So we'll go back. Just popped up. So what do we got? We got. Okay, so people want video lectures, video problems, so video content. And then the other thing, number 3, end of chapter. So people are very interested in it. So we'll talk a lot about what we have in terms of end of chapter offerings. And then everything else is pretty similar. A little bit on online proctoring, data analytics, some on data analytics. We'll touch on that for sure. Critical thinking, 36%. That's interesting. So we'll talk about, make sure we hit that. All right, that was super useful. So thank you for answering the poll. All right, so if we go, and this kind of guides, I think, a lot about kind of what we want to cover, but I'll definitely tailor it to what everyone answered in the poll. But if we think about our text, that what we want to show you guys today is really, we want to talk about our content, and we'll talk about this in terms of how we design content to help, to teach to all majors, not just accounting majors, but all majors, and also, foster less memorization and more understanding of what's actually going on. And so they leave intro accounting with some skills they can actually use. That's kind of our focus, and we'll talk about how we do that. And then we'll definitely talk about resources we have. We saw a ton of people are teaching online, more people than I thought are teaching hybrid. So we'll talk about what resources we have to engage students online and in the classroom. So we'll talk about both of those. And then, there is push towards data analytics. I know there's the CPA evolution model curriculum that they're proposing right now, and they're talking about. We've looked at that curriculum. I don't know what's going to happen with that, if that's going to be pushed forward or not, but we've looked at it in our content. We've mapped our content to it. It doesn't really focus on the introductory level as much, so it's not as doesn't affect intro as much as it does the major courses, accounting major courses, but it does, I think, overall have an emphasis about preparing future accountants. And it talks a lot about, we need critical thinking. We saw in the poll, a lot of people said, yeah, critical thinking is important. So we definitely are addressing from that respect, making sure that we have exercises and problems and ways of getting students to think critically. And also that we have we do data analytics as well, but we're not really training data analysts. And I think Jennifer will show you this at the end. What we're really focused on is can students take the same thing that they're learning in accounting, but showing it in like a dashboard or something like that, something that they're likely to see in the workplace. So basically not teaching them how to create a dashboard, but how to use a dashboard and how to interpret accounting information if it's shown graphically or visually. So that's kind of, we definitely focus on that as well. But I think we've always had a very decision-making, critical thinking approach to our text. So I think they're kind of in line with what these people are talking about. All right, so let's get started. So when I think, there was a lot of discussion, the poll showed clearly that, people are concerned about students, memorizing accounting, and that's a huge problem, and they're uninterested in accounting. And I think a lot of times, at least in my experience of teaching, the reason they're uninterested and the reason they memorize is a lot of the way we teach accounting. And that is, if you look at a lot of accounting texts, not all of them, but a lot of them, focus the first few chapters or the first chapter or two purely on just learning a bunch of definitions. I mean, we start off by memorization. Here's a bunch of definitions, especially in managerial accounting. It's very, they do that a lot where they, let's teach you every definition and then we'll actually start doing accounting later. And basically you're kind of starting the course with telling your students, hey, just memorize all this stuff, because the students have never done accounting. They don't have any context to place that definition in. They just basically are memorizing. And we kind of take a different approach. We learn by doing. So instead of having a chapter at the beginning, we have a very short section. You can kind of see in this book, this is our financial text. On page 13, we're already introducing events, and they're showing how those events impact the accounting equation. So they start real early. We'll define what the accounting equation is, what the elements are, and we'll have them start with very simple events doing accounting very early on. And then we apply the terminology and things like the conceptual framework, like different principles, matching principle, things like that. We'll apply those as needed throughout the text. So as they actually do the accounting, we apply the terminology. And that way you're doing accounting from day one. So you don't have like a first few weeks where you're just going over PowerPoint slides, basically reading definitions. You can start doing accounting. When I teach accounting, we're doing accounting on the first day. So, and I think that helps with, stopping memorization. The other thing I think we do that really helps stop memorization, I think a lot of times in my experience, students memorize accounting, especially in financial, because they're kind of overwhelmed. We throw so much at them at once, and memorization is they're compensating. It's a compensation. I can't understand all this, so it's quicker just to start memorizing. And to kind of combat that, one thing we do is we start really simple and build. And what I mean by that is, if you think of like a lot of times when we're teaching intro for the first time, we start with like a complicated, a lot of text. If you look at them, we'll start with a real world financial statement right at the beginning. And I've been guilty of this before too. I've done it. Here's a balance sheet for Google. Look how cool it is. Let's see the real thing. But students, they see that and they see all kinds of accounts on it, and they don't know what any of that stuff means. They don't know. They see an accumulated depreciation account on a balance sheet. They don't know what that is. And because they don't know what it is, you're kind of telling them to memorize right from the beginning. So with our text, we start real simple and build. And what I mean is, like, chapter 1, we just have cash events. There's no accruals. So there's no payables. There's no receivables. We have we start with a service company. So there's no inventory, no cost of goods sold. It's just we have 5 simple cash events, and we'll actually build a very simple set of financial statements with those 5 cash events. And students understand the statements, they understand everything on it, and then we just kind of build on that. So we'll add in accruals in chapter 2, and we do things like we split the accruals and deferrals. So we'll get accruals down, and then we'll get deferrals down. We have 2 sections in chapter 2. Chapter 1's just section 1's just accruals, section 2 is just deferrals. So we're like turning $1 at a time, and we do very simple accruals like payables, receivables. I just saw a message come in. Did you see that message, Claire? Something about I missed something? Is there a message?
Oh, yeah. They
that
missed
for
the
me?
beginning 2 minutes. Which textbook are you referring to?
Okay, well, that's great. I'm referring to, really, this would be referred to any of our financial texts. So we go back real quick. This would refer to any of these, this one, or how we teach financial and survey. So we kind of do it. The chapter order is slightly different, but in terms of how the content's organized, it's exactly the same. So we do that approach in all of our financial text. So yeah, we start by just cash events in all of them, and then we add in accruals. In the book where we delay debits and credits, we actually do accruals in chapter 2 and deferrals in chapter 3. And then financial, we do them in one chapter, but there's still section 1 of chapter 2 is accruals, section 2 is deferral. So it's still, the content's still organized the same way, but we split it up and we kind of just turn $1 at a time. And we we really just try to get, keep it very simple so that students understand and then keep turning a dial. So in the financial book, the traditional book, we go into double entry accounting once you get through accruals and, how to do debits and credits, the accounting procedure. In the delayed book, we wait till chapter 13, but we go into that. But then chapter 4 in both books, we go into inventory, cost of goods sold. And so we actually introduce a merchandising company. So the first 3 chapters, it's just a service firm. It's very, very simple. So students can understand they don't have to deal with inventory or cost of goods sold. In chapter 4, we actually introduce a merchandising firm. So it's kind of this approach of just turning one dial at a time. Let's do one thing, get them good at that, and then add something else, and then add something else. And that, I think, really helps combat memorization because they're not as overwhelmed. They can understand what's going. They're not seeing stuff without actually being taught, everything behind it. So they're not just seeing a term. They're understanding the business event and how that, transfers into the financial statements. They're not just seeing a term on a set of financial statements. So I think that helps with memorization. But we do the same kind of thing in managerial as well. And we consider this like our step-by-step approach. We try to teach one thing at a time. I think that helps. All right. So that's something that we do in terms of how we organize our content. I think the other thing that we do that really makes our series unique, and this would be with all of our financial text. Okay, so whether it's the traditional one, the delayed debits and credits, or the survey of accounting text, they all do the same thing. We focus on how events affect statements, and this really gets at like if you think about how business people actually interact. If you're in a meeting, you'll hear things like, how will this affect our earnings? How will this affect our cash position? You won't hear like, what's the journal entry for something? This is the way business people think. And this is really what we think is important to focus on at the intro level. It's really important to focus on that because you have a lot of non-majors in the course. You have, accounting majors, you have non-majors, and the non-majors need to be able to, everyone needs to understand how to read a set of financial statements. And then they understand not only how to read a set, but if something in the business happens, they understand the business event, how's that going to impact the statements? And we think that's an important skill for all students, whether they're accountants or not. And so to do that, and I'll kind of go through this. I'm sure this is familiar to everyone on the call, but and I want to show this because I want to illustrate why I think a lot of people think that they do this. They think that, we are doing this, we are teaching this, but I don't think that it necessarily always comes through. And we've done some tests in my classes and Jen's classes and kind of shown that it doesn't always come through. So if you think about how we teach accounting, we teach, you have some business event, you record a journal entry, post it, make a trial balance, make some adjusting entries, make your financial statements. This is the whole process, the whole procedure. And what happens, I think, is a lot of times early in the course, we'll go through the whole process. We'll have a bunch of events and we'll go through this whole process so students can see how the event gets to the financial statement. But the problem is that process takes a lot of time, and it's you can't do it over and over and over again. It just takes too much time. So what ends up happening is we spend a lot of time focusing here. You have a business event, record the journal entry. We have a business event, record the journal entry. And if you look at the end of chapter content for a lot of intro text, their end of chapter content structured here too. Here's a bunch of events, record the journal entries. And really, we're not teaching accounting at that point. We're teaching bookkeeping. And we want to, we want students to learn accounting. This right here, it's very useful for an accounting major, no doubt. But for a marketing major, this process, drilling this process over and over, isn't as important. So we want to make sure that they get that as well. So we want to make sure that not only can they do the journal entry, but they understand how the business event affected the statement. They can make that connection. And to do that, here's an example, from our financial text. So this is from our traditional text, but all of our financial texts have this model down here. We use something called a horizontal statements model. We've used this for years, and you have a balance sheet, an income statement, and a statement of cash flows. And we basically show not only can the student record the journal entry, which is useful if you're doing bookkeeping, but how did that impact your balance sheet? How did it impact your statement, your income statement, and your statement of cash flows? That's what I think really makes us unique. And it's not just that we show this in the text. I think a lot of books now today actually show some model like this in the text. But if you look at our end of chapter content, we drill these concepts over and over and over. And we have test bank questions that drill these concepts. And I think, a lot of I taught like this for a long time, where I just had some event and I had a journal entry, and I remember teaching this way over and over, and I thought my students were doing great. I remember I was teaching at Virginia Tech at the time, and I thought my students were doing awesome, and they were getting this down. And I talked to my father, and he was like, "Well, just ask them next time they can record the entry. Ask them how it impacted the balance sheet or the income statement." So I started asking my class that, and this is when I was using another text. I was a PhD student at Virginia Tech, so I was using whatever text they were using, and I started asking my class, what's the effect on the balance sheet, income statement? They couldn't tell me, and it's because it wasn't drilled. All they could tell me is the journal entry, and that's when I really kind of was sold that that's not really useful in terms of training majors or non-majors. I mean, they need to be able to tell me the impact, and I think it makes things when you teach with a model like this too. So we have some event. This is obviously they're providing services and they haven't been paid yet, so they're providing them on account. It's an accrual, very, very straightforward. But a lot of times students don't know what we mean by accruing something. But the model, the journal entry doesn't make it clear, but the model does. Accruing means it hits our income statement, but not our cash flow statement. Like we're going to go ahead and report it as income, even though we haven't showing it on the cash flow statement. We're not showing it as a cash inflow. So that's what an accrual means. A deferral would be the opposite. It hits your cash flow statement, not your income statement first. So these concepts of accruing and deferring become a lot more clear when they're shown in a model instead of just a journal entry. Another thing I think that we do because of this model is we teach the cash flow statement throughout the course. And I think this is something that's really important to introductory students. They need to understand the statement of cash flows. It's really funny. I kind of did an analysis. I bought a bunch of old accounting textbooks one time on eBay. I just bought literally 50 old books from the 80s and 70s all the way up to the 90s. And it's really interesting kind of analyzing them, because what happened is when the cash flow standard came out in the late 80s, all the books, the way they accommodated it was they just added a chapter to the end because no one wanted to rewrite the whole book. So we just added a chapter at the end, and that's how we dealt with it. And I think that was kind of a disservice to a lot of our intro students, because a lot of times that chapter doesn't get covered. And if it does get covered, it's typically a very difficult chapter because it's teaching it the indirect method, teaching how to reconcile two balance sheets and an income statement to get the statement of cash flows. It's a challenge, but conceptually they're not getting a lot of cash flow statement coverage, and we cover it throughout. And the way we do it is we put it in the model, and students just all they have to do is say, was it an operating, investing, or financing activity, and did it affect cash? So did it affected cash? Under assets, it's going to be on the cash flow statement, and then they got to classify it. Oh, that was operating, that was investing, that was financing. And again, that's getting students to think about what's really going on with the business. Are we operating? Are we investing? Are we financing? So I think it kind of ties into that, a true understanding of accounting approach instead of just, what's the journal entry? So I think that's something that's unique to our text, and we've had a lot of success with teaching it that way. We keep it simple, but we do expose them to the cash flow statement throughout. Okay. So let's see how we're doing on time. All right, I'll talk quickly about this. I think another thing that is important in intro, and we've all taught intro a ton, many years, and what we found is you got to be very clear in how you talk about things. It's very important. I mean, if you see just the way we describe a transaction, we don't just, this is when this transaction is introduced, we don't just say Cato provided consult services on account. We're careful to describe what the actual business event was, what actually happened. They completed the work, they sent bills, they haven't been paid yet. So, because I think a lot of times students don't, in my experience, it's not that students can't do the accounting. A lot of times they don't understand what the actual business event is. They don't know what happened in the business. So of course they can't account for it. And they got to understand the business event first. If they understand that, now we can do the accounting. And I think sometimes we're not careful in how we describe our events, and that causes confusion. And another example of that is how when we're describing an event, we want to take the perspective. We change, for instance, it's important to take the perspective of the right entity. So if I look at this transaction, and I pulled this from an intro text, this is the first transaction that was in the book. Not our text, but another text. And it says the owners invested $5,000 into Cato Consultants. Well, if I gave that transaction to my class and I said, okay, here's a transaction. Is this an operating, an investing, or a financing activity? 90% of my class would say it's an investing activity. And they'd say, it's an investing activity. The owner's invested. And I'd say, no, it's a financing activity. And they'd say, no, it's investing. The truth is that the students are right. It is an investing activity from the owner's perspective. But from Cato's perspective, it's a financing activity. And it's just the way we're framing the question. We're framing it from the perspective of the owners and then asking them to account for the business. And we change the framing. If you look at books, they change it all the time. And a lot of times students get confused. Who are we accounting for? We believe at the introductory level, when you're first teaching students, I mean, this is the first transaction a student experiences. It's, it's like we're starting with a trick question. Why do that? Why not frame it from the perspective of the actual business? So Cato Consultants issued common stock acquiring 5,000 cash from the owners. Clearly, that's a financing activity, and it's framed from Cato. So we were really careful. We rewrote all our transactions at one point in time and made sure that everything was framed from the business. So we're not changing the framing every single question, just to make it more clear to students. All right, so that's kind of a quick rundown of our approach in terms of content organization, the models we use. Are there any questions with that before I jump into maybe more exciting stuff, resource stuff? So any questions on the chat or anything, Claire?
Yeah, there were a couple questions that came in. One says, I see 2 textbooks about financial accounting. One is fundamental concepts, other for business. Which one would you recommend using for non-accounting majors?
For non-accounting majors, I would recommend either using this introductory accounting for, if this is just a financial text. So I would just use this and not teach the debits and credits. I don't think the non-majors need the debits and credits. If you want to teach financial and managerial in the same course, and for non-majors, I would use the survey of accounting text. And this text also has no debits and credits. So I would either do, if you're doing financial and managerial, I'd do survey. If you're doing just financial, I'd do introductory financial accounting for business.
Awesome, thank you. And it looks like the other ones that have come in aren't questions, just requests. So
okay,
you're
cool.
good to continue on.
Cool. Okay, so that's kind of our let me go get out of this slide. So what I want to show you now is, like, we've talked a lot about content, but I want to talk about actual resources and how we're setting up our courses. So this is just so we're clear, every text that we have has the exact same resources. So if you see, I just picked a course, but they apply to all the texts, so they're all the same. But I think it's we saw in the poll that, like, a lot of people are teaching hybrid, a lot of people are teaching online, and I think it is important today to be able to kind of teach in any format. I mean, we've been forced to, last year, I guess it was 2 years ago, I can't believe it's been 2 years, but 2 years ago we were forced to take all our courses and move them online immediately. You got to be able to deliver content in lots of different ways, and we were very cognizant of that, and it really worked to develop resources to make that easy. So, for instance, this is my Connect course, and if you're not familiar with Connect, just to give you an idea, this is where you can add assignments. You have an ebook right here. This is the way the courses are organized. You can build folders, and so you can build folders for your class. Let's see. I may not be logged in anymore. Let's see. It's been, yep. Hold on one second. So yeah, you can build folders for your class, and then you can add assignments to the folders. So you can kind of organize things under assignments. There's lots of different assignment types. I mean, just to give you guys some information, we have tons of different. We have data analytics exercises. We have Excel simulations. They want to use Excel, and I think there's a new Excel coming out as well. We'll talk about it in a little bit. But we have video lectures with assessment, video lectures without. ATC analyze, think this is the critical thinking problems we were talking about, exercise problems, test bank. So there's lots of stuff, and there's actually more than this as well in the newer editions. But we'll look at that. So this is kind of how Connect works. You can add assignments, you can build folders, and you can put it in. Well, this is my Connect course, what I used to teach at UAB. And the way I have it organized is, if you kind of look at this, so I have assignments, and what I do is our text is unique. I think that we have a video for every single learning objective in the book. So our text is is essentially, it's a regular textbook, but it's also a video textbook. You could watch the whole textbook or you could read the textbook. All the content's covered in video and in text. And so when I teach this course, I assign I let my students either read the book or watch the videos. And so they can watch videos before they come to class. And just to give you an idea of what these things look like. So this is a video. I'll play it for a second. Let's see if we can get it.
It just tells us where we're earnings.
So-
Beginning retained earnings.
So you can kind of see.
Remember, retained earnings increases if we have earnings, net income, or profits. It will increase retained earnings. And then retained earnings decreases if we decide to distribute some of those profits back to the stockholders. And so beginning retained earnings plus net income minus dividends equals ending retained earnings. So that's how retained earnings changes. And just looking at the change, we don't know how it changed.
Okay, I won't make y'all watch the whole video, but you can kind of see that the videos are, they're all made by the authors. I made all the videos. They're pretty short. This one's 6 minutes long. We keep them all under 10 minutes. They have closed captions, so you can turn captions on. Turn captions on.
And so in this video,
If you blow it up, you can see the video and the captions. You blow up the whole video, but you have a transcript so they can read it, which is really nice. They can control the speed, which is super nice in terms of, let me see, right here. Like it's really funny. I have students watching these videos like before class, like before an exam, they'll like rewatch the videos and they're like
I'll introduce a new financial
watching
statement
of
called income statement. It's going to tell investors what the next
2 times speed. So they can they can control the speed, so they can kind of watch it at their own pace. And then there's one of these for every learning objective in the book. And there's an assessment quiz below it. So I can assign these instead of like pre-class reading. I can assign, and this is great for like a hybrid course or an online course, or just as like instead of having your students read the book before, they can watch a video, which is what most students today like to do, and then they can take a quiz below it, and you can see the results of the quiz like before you come to class and kind of see, did my students understand this? And we created all the videos, we wrote all the quiz questions. The quiz questions tie directly to the video, so they're really meant to be like a pre-class assessment. Make sure that you're ready for class. So that's the way these work. And if we kind of look at this, you can see this is, so for my class, I have videos and then I have practice problems. But this is my whole class. So I'll watch videos. They take quizzes, and then they work practice. And like when we went online for COVID, I guess it was spring of 2020 or 19. I'm losing track of time. But whenever we did that, we were forced online. It was really easy for me because my course was already set up like this. So this is my face-to-face course. I just basically said, okay, just keep doing the same thing. Watch the videos, take the quiz, and do the practice. And there's the online course. So it was very easy to transfer everything online, very easy to teach online with this type of format. And then, you kind of have that. Another thing that's nice about this is you'll see there's prereqs here. So like if you get down like in, one of these later chapters, like chapter 7, and this video, a lot of times when I'm teaching introductory accounting, I'll like, students will come to my office, halfway through the semester, three-fourths through the semester, almost at the end of the semester. And they're like, Professor Edmonds, I'm lost. I don't know what to do. I'm like confused. And I'm like, well, what do you not understand? And they're like, well, I don't even know. I don't know what I don't understand. And that's really challenging for me as a professor because I don't know. But so to combat that problem, what we did is we put prereqs on all this. So if they're watching this video and they're like, I'm confused. I don't know what's going on here. Well, they know, I go back to 2.3. So if I go back to 2.3, I can, I need to go back to 2.1 and back to 2.2 and back to 1.10. So you can kind of trace your way back. In the beginning, they all kind of build off each other. But if you go back to chapter 7, if they're having trouble with 7.1, they're like, I need to go back and watch learning objective 2.2 back in chapter 2. They don't understand 7.1. So they're able to trace themselves back through the course, and that helps them catch up. That also helps them, not, because a lot of times, in intro especially, they get behind on that first exam. They do poor on the first exam, and they don't know how to catch back up or how to fix that problem. And this kind of fixes that problem for them. They can go back, they can see what they don't understand, and rewatch the videos. So we have a comprehensive set of videos for the entire text. Another thing we have, let's see, if you look at our practice, these are the end of chapter problems. And I think our texts are unique, or maybe they're not unique in this way, but we have a set and a B set of problems for our text. So the A set's entirely in Connect. and then the B set's for in-class use. So you can work problems in class. But the A set problems, they're, they work a problem. All the exercises in here have hints on them. So you can click a hint and you can watch a video of a student working a similar problem. So if they're working their homework and they get stuck, they can just click a hint. There's a video of someone working a similar problem, and then they can work their homework. And these hints you can turn on and off as the instructor. So if you don't want to give your students the hint, you can if you do. So there's videos not only for the lectures in terms of teaching the learning objective, but also for the problems as well. Let me see if I can find a more involved problem. But yeah, a lot of these, they have to pick the accounts for this is the statement of stockholders' equity and actually enter in the numbers. So and there's the hint video right there. So lots of end of chapter problems for that. Let's see. So that's that. And there's more resources than I have time to talk about today. And if y'all want more information, we're happy to talk more one-on-one. But there's videos. There's also a smart book where which is a really good resource. I actually use this as like for students to review for an exam. But some people use this as like a pre-class assignment as well instead of a video if you don't want to use videos. And the smart book's really cool because you can basically as the students are reading the book, it probes them with questions. And then if they don't get the question right, they have to go back and read a section. So it's kind of a neat resource. If you've used McGraw-Hill before, I think this is pretty common in all their text, but it works really well as well.
Hey, Chris.
Yeah.
We had a question come in asking if you could show an example of a trial balance.
Sure. Let me see the best way of doing this. Yeah, let's see. So this is for this book. Let me pull something from chapter 13. Let's see. So this is the, I'll show you what it looks like in Connect, but this would be probably a good place to see it. Probably just pull one of these. So here would be a beginning trial balance. And then, this would be a pro. So these are a really cool feature. And we have these in our financial book. Oops, what did I do? Let's see. We have these in all of our books, but they, I may be logged out. I don't think I actually added a problem. 13. They're integrated in different places depending on the text, but this will give you a good example. So maybe I need to assign it real quick. Okay, so this is we have these comprehensive problems for each chapter where students basically start with the beginning trial balance. They go through, they do a bunch of events, and then they have to do everything. They have to record it to a journal, they have to post it to a ledger. Here's what a trial balance would look like in Connect to kind of answer that question. So you can kind of see it. And then they have to prepare the financial statements. So they have to kind of do the whole process. This is a comprehensive problem. And it kind of depends on the text. You're talking about a traditional text. We have trial balances like this throughout, where they have to actually, prepare a trial balance. But in the delayed debits and credits text, this is actually done as like a comprehensive project. So when they get to debits and credits, they actually go through the entire trial balance. And you can look at it like unadjusted, adjusted, post-closing. So you can kind of see different trial balances, but this is how they're kind of operationalized in Connect. And these are really cool. You can click on the account and it'll take you back to the ledger and you can see the ledger. I think this takes you all the way back to the journal so you can actually see the journal entry. So there's really good traceability. Pretty cool assignment. So this is a comprehensive assignment that it's available. And there's one for every single chapter. So there's like a comprehensive problem for every chapter. And it builds off the same company. So you have the same company you carry forward, but we always give them the beginning trial balance. So you can you don't have to do all of them. You start with the beginning trial balance. So you can just pick a chapter and cover that chapter. I don't know if that answered the question, but that's what a trial balance looks like in Connect.
Yep. They said, yeah, he said, I like the comprehensive problem. So cool. Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. So, cancel this. Any other questions?
I don't know if you wanted me to show an example of the new integrated Excel resource, but I'm able to do that if you want me to.
Yeah, why don't you do that, and then we'll let Jen show the data analytics. That'd be great. Yeah. So this is a cool. How do I do that, Steve?
Well, you're going to need to stop sharing and then share is,
Yes,
if Jen wants
Steve.
to do data analytics first, that's fine. I
Okay.
can go.
Yeah, we'll let Jen do data analytics, and then we'll show integrated Excel.
Okay.
Okay, I
So-
just gave the ball to Jennifer, so she should be able to share her screen.
Okay, I can see it.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Jennifer, and I'll just take a minute and go over these new data analytics exercises that we have in Connect. These are all Tableau dashboard activities. And so when we were creating these, it was really important to make them visual and to make them critical thinking and conceptual for the students. So let me skip to a more advanced one. So as you can kind of see here, we have several different visualizations that show up for the students, and they're not actually having to operate within Tableau. It's more they're looking at the dashboards, and then below every dashboard, it gives them questions that are auto-gradable that they can answer. And so it's really, can they interpret these different visuals that are showing up? And there's one for every chapter. This one's chapter 3. We've also got them where they see different types of charts, bar charts, different metrics. And so all of these have been pretty popular if you want to just give them some data analytics, but you don't want them to actually have to be programming. And we have new ones that are coming out for managerial accounting. Can you see my screen now? So in our new edition of managerial accounting, here's some examples of how you could, look at the visualizations and break it into fixed cost, the contribution margin format, the traditional format, and then these all have questions as well, and the students just answer it, and you can kind of see if they're understanding the concepts or not.
Hey, Jennifer, we had a question come in asking which title you're showing this from.
When I'm in Connect right now, these were in the IFAB textbook, so the delayed debits and credits, but they're also in survey and the financial accounting textbook as well, and managerial.
Soon to be added to managerial with the next
Yeah, they're soon
edition.
to be added to the next edition coming out in the spring. And then, Steve, do you want to go ahead and talk about Excel? And if there's time, I can come back and talk about some of the other options.
Sure, I can go ahead. So if you want to pass the ball to me, Claire. And I can
Yep, you
share
should be able to share your screen now.
screen and share. Are you seeing my screen?
I am not.
Oh, share, there we go.
All right, I can see it now.
Now you should be seeing my screen. Okay. So what I'm about to show you is our new integrated Excel assignment materials. And so this is for if you're interested in integrating some level of Excel into your course to help students build some career readiness skills and actually work live within Excel. We have partnered with Microsoft to add these new integrated Excel assignments, and I'm going to show them to you like the student's going to see them, so you can really get a good sense for what the student's going to be able to do with these integrated Excel materials. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on this assignment that I set up as a student would, and it's going to take me into the assignment. And the first thing I'm going to see is that I need to open the Excel, the problem in Excel. And this takes a second to load up because this is actually Excel, what they call Excel now, but it's Excel Online that the student does not need to have a license for to use. It's all part of the integrated Excel materials inside of Connect. And what this does is it loads up the problem that the student's going to have to work through. Now, the first thing they're told is that they're going to be expected to use formulas. So formulas start with equal signs, and that they're going to use cell referencing where values are expected. So, so now that they know that, they can come right in here and start working live within Excel. So they're given some business transactions here, and they've got to record the impact on the horizontal statements model in this given question. So the first one is done for them, so they can see, get an idea, okay, 70,000 in affected accounts receivable and stockholders' equity and revenue net income. Okay, so let's take a look at the other one. So for instance, this one, well, what should this be? Performed 40,000 of services for cash, so this should be cash of 40,000, right? Well, you don't want to just put in the 40,000 because that would not be graded correctly. You need to say equals and come up here and select the value and say enter. So let's just go through, and I'm not going to do the whole form, but let's just focus on cash here. So what are the other effects? So in 3, 36,000 operating expense, that's not going to have an effect on cash. Let's go to 4, 10,000 in employee for salary. So let's say I slip up and I just put in 10,000 here. That looks right. And that actually wouldn't be right? Because I would want to put in a negative 10,000 on that one, but let's say that I do that, and okay, and then I look at the next one, collected 40,000 in cash, so that's going to have a positive 47,000 value, okay, and the next one is paid 16, so negative, and now I'm going to say negative or equals negative, and I'm going to do it right. I'm going to select that. And then the next one is going to be paid 8,000, so equals negative, and then I'm going to select 8,000, enter. So I'm doing pretty good here. And now if I wanted to check my work, so we have this built-in add-in for Connect, and so students can use those Connect features of check my work, and they can see their answer graded right away. And they can see, oh, they made some mistakes here. Why is that? Well, that's because I didn't use formulas for these two. So I would need to go back to continue working and go back to those and say equals and then negative and grab the value, right? And then down here equals and then 47,000 and enter. And now when I do check my work, I should be able to see these things are correct. And so what it allows you to do is help students start to build skills with Excel, and going back and forth between check my work, and you can give them as many attempts as check my work as you want. And they also have a scratch pad down here that they can use when they continue working. Sorry, I need to go back to the working mode. And when I come down here, at the bottom, there's a scratch pad that I can use if I want to just do some what ifing. This part's not graded. All the yellow cells, though, are where grades might be. And so another thing that they're going to need to do is, okay, what's the total here? And they might put in total equals and just do it like this, plus this, plus this, plus this, plus this. Or they might put in the summation of those, and why did that not work? Put in something wrong there. So this plus this plus this, enter, and I hope it's coming back false. Why is that? An issue here. Not quite sure what I did to mess up my formula, but I'm sure I did something wrong. But one of the nice things is when students do go into, they save their work and they return to the assignment. And when they actually do submit this assignment for grade, it comes back and it shows them the point value. So when they review the results, okay, out of the 10 points, I've got 1.06 part of it. But when they go back into the Excel assignment now, they're able to see the answer. So how they got graded here, showing their answer graded. And then when you show the correct answer, it'll show you exactly what that answer was expected to be. Okay, and when you hover over give this a second to load in, but when you hover over these little carets in the corner, it shows you what the formula that was expected was. So I could have done a summation there, or I could have done, adding all those values together. I'm sure I missed one of them when I added them together, but it shows you what those formulas should be. So students are really able to kind of understand what they should have done when they got things wrong. And this is all, again, live in Excel. They're getting a hands-on experience working directly inside of Excel. And that's really all there is to it. Then they just return to the assignment, and if there's another attempt, they can go on to do it, or if there's another question, they can go on to do it. But that's how our integrated Excel works, and we're very excited about this. And when I return to the instructor view here, if you're looking to assign these have been rolled out with the 10th edition of the Fundamental Financial Accounting Concepts and are being added with each new edition that we bring out. But when you add an assignment here and go into the question bank, where you can find these is we've tried to make them very prevalent at the top of it with the accounting integrated Excel new, and you can find that bank. And for each chapter, there's a couple of them that you can select from to assign to your students. So that's where they can be found. All right. So we're excited about that new resource. We hope you take advantage of it. And it's a great way to, help your students build career readiness features as part of their your homework.
Hey, Steve, can you cover which titles this is now live in with the
Yes.
Edmonds series?
Yes. So as I was saying, this is inside currently in the Fundamental Accounting Concepts, the 10th edition that just published in earlier this year. And as we move forward with IFAB and the managerial, we will have these integrated Excel resources available with those titles as well. So new
Awesome.
editions moving forward, we will have integrated Excel built in.
Awesome. And there was one question that came to me privately, so I just wanted to reiterate. They asked if the numerical data or the formula is what is graded, and you as an instructor can actually choose what you want graded on the back end when you set up the assignment. So I just want to make that clear.
Right, and grade by formula is the default, and if you wanted to change it to by value, you would have to select that when you create the assignment. There's a policy for making that determination.
Yep. Thank you. Awesome. I think that is it for the questions that have come in, at least that I can see on my end.
All right.
Yeah, that's well, does anyone else have any other questions or anything else they'd like to see covered?
Yeah, we got 1 minute. All right. I'm not seeing anything from my end. Steve, anything on your end?
So there's one specifically about the 2nd edition of IFAB. I'm seeing a question. And there will be an update to the 2nd edition of IFAB that's coming out in the spring of next year. And as that comes out, it will have the integrated Excel as part of that release. So for summer, fall of next year, you will have integrated Excel that you'll be able to assign.
Okay. Oh, can I show one? I just remember. Can I show one more quick thing, like super quick, like 30 seconds?
Yeah, go ahead.
Can I share real quick? I just wanted, because there was a bunch of people teaching hybrid. So I wanted to make sure I got something for the hybrid people. I was kind of surprised at how many people were teaching hybrid. I teach hybrid, so I was like kind of cool. Let me just share real quick. So this is something that we have for all our text that I think is really cool that we've started doing. And it's for if you're teaching hybrid and you're having them watch videos at home or they're coming in class, you want problem sets to work in class. We have these problem sets where it's basically all the B set problems in the back. And it's basically, we have a student version where it actually has the problem, and then it has like a working paper, and then an instructor version. So it's like your solutions manual, the problem's all built in. You can print these, and they're really nice because if you want them to work this problem, this is the student problem, and they have a working paper they can fill in, and you can modify these. but the page numbering is the same. So 1.3 on the student version is also 1.3 on the instructor version. So like if your version that you're using, it's mirrored directly to the student version. So if you're working problems in class, like I like to teach, I like to work a lot of problems in class when I'm teaching. I can just be like, I can provide this set to my students. They can just print it out. I usually send it to the bookstore. They can print it out from the bookstore and they bring it to class. I have my instructor set and I can just be like, hey, let's work this problem. Y'all get in groups. Let's work this problem. I have the solution. And I can say, go to page 1.3 and it's the same as my page 1.3, even though I have the solution. And they have like kind of a working paper, to help them, organize and set up the problem. And so it's a really nice in-class set of problems. And that works great if people buy like the ebook and they don't have the actual book, they can still work problems in class. So just thought I'd share that for the hybrid people. And that's available for all text. Okay, I'm done.
Thanks, Chris.
Okay.
And I have gotten a few messages asking how you can get desk copies. So I put my email into the chat. So feel free to send me an email and just specify in your email which titles you would like desk copies of. And I will get you in touch with your rep and we'll make sure that you get desk copies.
And we can also copy over our course to anyone. So if you'd like to see Chris's IFAB course or my managerial course or fundamentals, we have kind of pre-built courses that we'd be happy to share that you could then edit and build your course.
Awesome. Thank you, Jennifer. And there was actually just one more request that came through. Can you show the screen that has all the different titles?
Yes.
I think he's wanting to figure out which text he wants desk copies of.
Okay. So this is the traditional financial, the delayed financial. The second one's the delayed debits and credits. This is managerial, and this is our survey of accounting for financial managerial combined.
Perfect. Right. Well, and just as a reminder, we're going to be sending out this recording and these slides as a follow-up. So you should be receiving those shortly. And again, please feel free to reach out if you guys have any questions or comments. We're happy to help. And we just appreciate y'all for jumping on today and for participating in our poll questions. We hope this was a valuable use of your time. And thank you, Chris and Jennifer. This was great. And I hope everyone has a great rest of their week.
All right.
Yeah.
Bye, y'all.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.